over 25 years, the Soviets detonated a staggering 122 nuclear bombs, under a program they ironically called nuclear explosions for the national economy. The Soviets were relentless in their ambition. They wanted massive infrastructure projects completed quickly and cheaply, but they faced limitations. The lack of heavy machinery and resources pushed them toward an unthinkable solution, using nuclear bombs as a shortcut to progress. On top of that, ideological rivalry with the United States and Cold War competition being the cherry on top gave birth to Program Number 7. Program Number 7 was launched at the height of the Cold War, nearly 3 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Tensions were at an all-time high. Both the US and USSR were chasing progress, no matter the cost. The Soviet Union was in a race against time, driven by a fierce desire to outpace their Cold War rivals. More importantly, the Soviets needed to solve local infrastructure problems, and this was where they saw an opportunity. The program was primarily focused on exploring peaceful applications of nuclear explosions for civil engineering, resource extraction, and scientific research. It ran from 1965 to 1989, carrying out 122 nuclear detonations in total. It is January 15th, 1965 in the Kazakhstan SSR. Near the town of Semipalatinsk, Soviet engineers are preparing to bury a 140 kiloton nuclear device beneath the dry Chagan riverbed. The air is thick with tension as they prepare for a test that will shape history. For context, this single bomb has nearly 4 times the explosive power of the combined bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Their goal is to create a water reservoir. They managed to place the device roughly 180 meters underground. An eerie silence settles over the site. Then, detonation. The explosion is deafening. A blinding flash lights up the barren landscape as the earth trembles beneath it. The blast rips open the earth, carving out a crater 400 meters wide and 100 meters deep. Engineers rush to cut a spillway, and soon the river begins flooding the crater. Atomic lake is formed. On the surface, the test seems like a success, but there's more than meets the eye. Although the bomb used a low-fission design, the near-surface explosion released about 20% of its radioactive contents into the atmosphere. Radiation spewed into the sky, crossing borders and oceans. A radioactive plume was detected as far away as Japan, prompting formal protests from the United States. Atomic Lake still exists. By the 1990s, its water was measured at 100 times above safe drinking limits. Surveys confirmed the lake remains highly radioactive, and, reportedly, it's still used by local villagers and their livestock. The Soviets weren't the only ones detonating nukes on their own soil. Their main rival, the United States, had a program of its own. In 1957, the US launched Project Plowshare, which they dubbed Atoms for Peace. Many of Plowshare's ideas mirrored those of the Soviets, using nuclear explosions for civil engineering, resource extraction, and scientific research. But the Soviets did everything on a grander scale. The American program carried out just 27 tests, the largest at the Sedan test site, where a 104 kiloton device carved a crater similar in size to Atomic Lake. Public pressure and protests brought the program to an end in 1975. But while Washington hit the brakes, Moscow hit the gas. Radioactive fallout from the Atomic Lake test must have made the Soviets reconsider further underground nuclear explosions, right? Wrong. This time, their plans were even bigger and far more ambitious. Enter Project Taiga. During the Soviet period, the Caspian Sea experienced major water level fluctuations, mainly due to overuse of the Volga River. This alarmed Soviet leaders and pushed them to act. The project aimed to link 2 major rivers, the Pechora, which flows north into the Arctic, and the Kama, a major tributary of the Volga. 1971, Perm region. Project Taiga would test if a canal could be dug using nuclear detonations. The ultimate goal? A 112-kilometer canal dug by simultaneous explosions. 3 identical 15 kiloton devices were buried deep underground, and then detonated. The blast created a trench 700 meters long and 350 meters wide. The mushroom cloud rose 1.8 kilometers into the sky. Outside the USSR, both Sweden and the US detected the event. The trench soon collapsed, leaving the crater far shallower than expected. Soviet engineers concluded the terrain wasn't suitable, and that hundreds of more explosions would be required. The nuclear canal project was deemed impractical and abandoned. Today, the Taiga Atomic Lake still exists, now surrounded by forests. Locals still fish there, and radiation levels continue to be monitored. Peaceful nuclear explosions left behind long-lasting contamination that proved devastating to the people and communities living near test sites. In the Soviet Union, no one was ever evacuated, and nearby settlements continued to report high rates of cancer and illness. The Soviet government kept these tests tightly classified, using them as propaganda while withholding critical information. Residents living near the sites were given little to no warning before the detonations took place. Environmental protests were growing worldwide. Costs were piling up, and the data was damning. But for peaceful nuclear explosions, the final nail in the coffin was the Chernobyl disaster, the event that would expose the Soviet Union's darkest flaw. The government's culture of secrecy and nuclear optimism finally collapsed under the weight of truth. For decades, they had concealed the catastrophic consequences of their nuclear experiments. But now, the world knew the extent of the damage, and Program Number 7 was its precursor, a warning buried beneath layers of radioactive soil. In 1989, Gorbachev halted all nuclear testing. By 1996, the world banned all nuclear explosions, peaceful or not. The era of atomic engineering was over. The Soviets thought they were shaping the future with their nuclear experiments. Instead, they left behind a toxic legacy, radioactive scars on the earth and in the lives of the people who lived in its shadow. Today, the water in the atomic lakes may look calm, but beneath their surface, the dangers still linger. The past is never truly buried. Peaceful nuclear explosions were meant to shape the land. Instead, they revealed how far a superpower was willing to go in the name of progress, and how far it fell in the process.